Hey MGTOWs, this is Vention. Well, you were right. At least half right. Many of my subscribers and several of my fellow mechanics were saying, Vention, be careful how you eat that steak. Only eat half of it, you know. and I'm very flattered, but apparently quite a few of my fellow mechanics are now watching my channel. So, hey guys! Anyway, and they were saying, oh, you should just cut it in half and only eat half. And I was saying, oh, stop being a wuss. So I said, I'll cut it in half and I'll have 2 forks and I'll be eating at this with 2 hands. Anyway, and then about halfway through the steak, as I was going, yeah, this is awesome, yeah. And then suddenly my body went, and it told me, Vention, what the bleep are you doing to me? So I said, kept my smile on my face, and I said, I think I'm going to have to finish this later. So put a lid on it and took it home with me. And they pressed another meal on me, and I gave that to my dad. And man, one of my fellow mechanics is so good with a grill. I mean, the steak practically melts in your mouth, guys. And it was like, it was awful hard to stop eating that. But my body said to me, you had better stop or it's going to end up on the floor. So I stopped. Anyway, and my dad was like overjoyed to get that steak. He was like very impressed. Very rarely do we get a steak like that outside of like a very good restaurant. So yeah, good times. That was the day before yesterday. Then yesterday I woke up with like quite a stomach ache. My body was just, oh man, I was just not ready for that. And I had jump started my system, but the day before, but it just wasn't enough. Maybe I should have given it another day or something, but coming off of a fast, even if it was only 17 days, and I even cheated on that within that 17 days. I had a meal on the way to Mount Rainier, and it was so basically it wasn't even a full 17 days. It was just, but it was still, it's tricky. It's a little more tricky than I thought. Yesterday I put this little AC unit in, and I was debilitated physically. I just was like staggering around, cut the little plywood thing, put in the bracket, and now it's working quite well. The house is much cooler, but basically that's all I could do. I was so tired I had to take a nap. I'd become quite the wuss after that fast. Today I'm feeling much better. I'm on the 1 meal a day thing, intermittent fasting, and that seems like abundance compared to recently. So yeah, good times. So I'm just uh-oh, here they come. Shut up, Fran. There's actually some people out there, so I won't give her any crap. I do love this remote control to the alarm system. That's freaking awesome, though. So I've just been kicking back at my own pace and just making a leisurely little project of slapping this thing together. I want the front to break the wind, and then I'm tucking the plywood behind it, as you can see. Good times. Well, that's about all I got over here. So, I just wanted to talk about the benefits of being an outsider. Pardon the door. Anyway, man, most of my life I've just been the kind of the weird guy out. You know, it's like when you run into, when you go through your life like that, I mean, it's like you're kind of, when you're young and you haven't built up your skill sets or anything, you're pretty much forced to be an outsider. I was like something of an incel probably. And plus just not that social. A very, I have the INTJ personality type, and I'm just much more of a thinker than the vast majority of the people, and that's, thank goodness for that. That's what allowed me to see it and really take to heart what my fellow mechanics and my friends were going through when their wives ass launched them from their families. And I realized, ooh, that could happen to me. The benefits of being an outsider who really thinks like an outsider really start to pile up over the decades. I mean, every time there's a decision to be made that to either do what everybody else is doing or do something different or think about what people are doing and consider different ways of doing things. I nowadays I almost compulsively do not do what everybody else is doing. I mean, when everybody else is like buying fancy cars and just with like back when I was in my 20s, I'm like Mr. Practical. I have zero desire to basically do what everybody else is doing. And then when computers came around, and I was just, I fell in love with them. before bulletin board systems even existed, I was in love with computers. And then when Bitcoins came around, man, I've always just been very, very angry about the federal government and how they just, their whole Ponzi scheme, money printing scams like Social Security, that's a Ponzi scheme. And then the money printing scam is the Federal Reserve, of course. And it's just like scam after scam, and it's all designed to take our money. And I've just been revolted by it and just nauseated by it. And every time somebody tried to fight back and develop something on their own, they were always right there on the attack. And the biggest example I recall is the Liberty Dollar, where the feds kicked in the door at the Liberty Dollar and kicked in and basically opened up all the safes and stole all the gold that they were using to back the notes that they were issuing. And it was like a cryptocurrency, only it was backed. And that's one of the reasons I've never trusted cryptocurrencies that try to back something, because whatever it is can be seized, and then what do you do with the token? The token's worthless after that. So I was just thinking, so that's one of the things that just got me so incredibly excited about Bitcoins. It was just like amazing that there was an asset that could be used as money that couldn't be just automatically easily seized by the government. Everything else you own, your house, your car, your 401k, your IRA, everything you own, even your life, can all be taken from you more easily than they can take your Bitcoins from you. And that was just an amazing thing to me. And that's what the knowledge of what that was allowed me to just keep buying, even when even when 2014 was pushing the Bitcoin price just down and down and down, man, I was just buying every freaking month. There was only one time that I broke, and that was when Roger Ver shattered the community and split it, and because he was enraged that he didn't get his way, and he just attempted to just break Bitcoin, and if he couldn't control it, he was going to break it. And he did everything he could to break it, and he failed. But when he did, I mean, it pushed the price down, and then all the whales like Vinny Lingus, I am not impressed with that guy. He was saying, it's going to $400, it's going back down to $400, and that plus a bunch of other crypto experts were all calling, and it was like down to like $900 or something, and I was like, oh my God. And it was like, it looked like it was the end. And that's when I weakened, and that's when my hands became weak, and I dropped half my Bitcoins. I mean, I paid off my house, which is nice, but if I hadn't done that, I'd have been retired 2 years ago. So basically, the ability or the compulsion to be different, to do what other people are doing and not do what everybody else is doing, man, it has been with me all my life, and man, has it ever paid off. And I have really got my fingers crossed on this cancer thing, because it really looks like, I mean, as far as the statistics go, it's really hard to know for sure, because the medical industry, the cancer industry, they cook the books worse than the banking system. If you're getting chemotherapy and then you die of like a brain aneurysm caused by the chemo, they call that a brain aneurysm death and not chemo, right? They don't count anything unless it's like absolutely chemo related or cancer related. They don't count that as a cancer related death. So basically, how can you know what they're saying? But even if you look at their numbers, and I've read about articles that are saying that the cancer survival rate is only a little better with chemo, and that's not even counting the horrendous deaths of like cancer-related deaths, chemo-related deaths, radiation-related deaths that you can't really prove are chemo and cancer-related. Those aren't even counted. So I figured, man, after I did some real soul searching, and I just had to say, should I do what everybody else is doing and march in lockstep and be like everyone else and then probably die, and die in horrible agony and nausea, or should I just double down on the health side and just max out as hard as I can on the health, and then attempt to basically see if I can do every alternative that I can think of, and including some of them that aren't even available in the U.S., like some that I plan to get in Mexico. And I had to say, man, if no treatment is about even with chemo, I am gonna have to try the alternative methods. So basically, that's what I'm up to. Good times. So man, being an outsider, it was tremendously painful when I was young, because I always wanted to be, kind of included in what everybody else was doing, but basically, it turned out it just wasn't worth it. And now I see how the stories of everybody else who does what everybody else does and have done what everybody else does. And I've just seen disaster after disaster and misery and pain and anguish and bankruptcy and poverty and obesity and an early painful death. And I'm thinking, man, I am perfectly happy to be an outsider, and I will stay that way till the day I die. Thank goodness for that. Okay, MGTOWs, I'm going to start farting around on this trailer again. I am so happy to work on a project like this and take my time and measure everything and just do it in such a relaxed way. And every single time I get a little bit tired, I just go back inside and kick back in the air conditioning and then I'm just taking my time, and God, it's something I've never experienced before. It is just an amazing thing. It is just so awesome. And Bitcoins are coming back up again. And I think we're at 84 or 8,600, something like that. Man, and I suspect within a few months we'll be at 10 grand. Man, if it keeps going like this, by the end of the year, I won't be under any financial pressure to sell this house. Because I could probably make a go of it right here. But I do want to get my dad planted in a, well, not planted. That's a bad choice of words when you're talking about a guy who's in his 80s. But I want to get him established and get a home base in that less expensive place, and then pocket the extra 180 grand or so, and then I won't have to cash in Bitcoins until like 2020, maybe December of 2020, after it's given a lot of good time to run up. Then I will probably pull out maybe 38 grand, and that keeps it below the level that, according to the IRS's own rules, I won't have to pay a dime of income tax on that. And I find that just very, very compelling, because I've been angry and screwed over by the IRS. I mean, every month they're always taking money from me. And ever since my Army years, back when I was 17, they've been taking money from me every single month practically. And now I'll be able to spend next year without paying any income tax at all. Now, we will, of course, have bubbles and crashes in Bitcoin again. But if I only take out 38 grand, I could probably do that for the rest of my life and never have to really struggle and never have to pay income tax. And when my time comes to pass on, I will arrange for my family to get my Bitcoins, and nobody will know. And they can spend them however they want, and they can pay income tax on them if they want, or they can just fly under the radar and buy gift cards with them and buy little things here and there and trade them in for cash and not ever have to pay income tax. And but that's up to them. Me, I'm sort of a stickler. If I can screw the IRS and do it by their own rules, I find that there's a beautiful symmetry to that. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. Okay, MGTOWs, that's about it. I'm going to just ease my way through the rest of this day and continue building this trailer. Put the little gate on the back, and then I'll get it licensed and take it for a little test drive. And a friend of one of my subscribers was saying I need to get the Chinese grease out of these bearings, and he is absolutely right. I never thought of it until he mentioned it, but that is absolutely something I need to do. before I take this thing any distance at all. So yeah, I'm gonna clean it out and then replace the grease. Yeah, good times. And don't get married.